Go. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Honey Badger Arcade. My name is Brian. I'm here with John, the problematic white guy, and this is the Week in Culture. We're going to be discussing a lot of news that's going on in the world of our culture, and by extension, the way that it eventually impacts the way that we live our lives. So,
Indeed.
So welcome to the show, John. How are you doing?
Oh, awesome as always. I see that I'm in audio form today.
Yeah, well, you didn't come on. You didn't turn your camera on, so I just.
Yeah, I know. No worries, no worries. I can do that in a little bit.
Yeah, but you said that you didn't sleep great. So
yeah, well, it is what it is. Yeah, I did not, because I'm kind of confounded by the current situation that's happening on YouTube. Of course, anybody seeing the thumbnail notices that, yeah, Alyssa's up to it again. She has now claimed another scalp on her belt for channels that have been either deplatformed or demonetized. She's going after, Atreus late in the day yesterday, who was mentioned briefly in the lawsuit amendments, has now been demonetized, surprise, surprise, for videos that had Alyssa Mercanti as the subject matter. So, it's just, I mean, I know she doesn't watch this show, thankfully, because I'm pretty sure she'd come after you too. And it's at the point to where everybody can see what this is. Every single one of these channels, except for Smash, there's been 5 people in the last 2 months, starting with, of course, Toasty, who I do shows with throughout the week. And then let's see, Hypno, of course, got into a technicality strike based on things. Smash is the only person who breaks the pattern. He had a video about Alana Pierce that got flagged, but I'm assuming that because she's got the lawsuit against him, that it would make more sense for her to not be that flagrant and open about it. But then, of course, Ryan got deplatformed, who we had on the show last week as a guest. And then now Atreus. And so I've been saying to everybody for months now, hey, these covert means that they use to build a power base over the course of the last 10, 15 years, they're going to fall back to, because anytime they try to do something overtly in the light of day, just constantly makes them look like rake steppers, and people call them out for exactly what they're doing. And so, they're going to fall back on this method because it's effective. And why wouldn't you use an effective weapon? But ultimately, this woman who's now working effectively for Rolling Stone, they do have a full gaming division there now, and she's kind of trying to craft her narrative for her lawsuit, which ultimately is going to undermine her own profession if she should ever fall from grace and lose her position at this current journalist site. Then she's just going to be one of us, and at that point in time, she's setting a precedent, and it's all for establishing case law for this concept of stochastic terrorism, being able to effectively bypass the First Amendment and undermine everybody's freedom of speech and the right to free expression. And so, when you're doing this time and time again, I know that she thinks that she's the hero in this whole situation, but throughout history, she's the one right now who's burning books, even if she doesn't necessarily like the context that's within them. And I only use that as the example because I know the last thing that she'd want to think of herself as is being an authoritarian who wants to see the world burn, but that's exactly what she's doing. And there's not really, too much that can be said about it at this point in time. It's just another week in the process, but I thought that, it was at least worth bearing mention today because it's pretty straightforward, and I wouldn't tell YouTube creators, use your own judgment, but ultimately what she's trying to do is silence people through fear and intimidation, because she's going to find a robot hall monitor that even when you try to say, hey, there's an established pattern here, they will say to you, if you actually can talk to anybody that will talk, like, yeah, not just some robot, that anything outside of your own channel is irrelevant and not allowed to be discussed as it pertains to your own situation.
Right.
But it's fairly clear cut that she's just trying to have her cake and eat it too, because everything that she would accuse people of are the actions that she commits to all the time, using a mass reporting brigade of targeted attacks on specific videos. I can only speculate, but on my information and belief, as it's stated in the lawsuit, to talk about speculation, it does seem pretty obvious that that's what's going on here. So I don't know if you have any thoughts that you want to add to where we're at currently, but I did just want to give everybody a quick little update.
I mean, this is the typical leftist playbook. I mean, I've seen it a million times for 12 years. And yeah, it's always the same. First, you create a threat narrative around the people that you want to censor. Then you basically like appeal to authorities that will be willing to do that for you. And then they'll find various ways to remove you either outright or by essentially just limiting your reach. So this is what, I mean, Anita Sarkeesian did it. Zoe Quinn did it. Alyssa Mercante is just another in a line of people that are doing this, and it's just because they don't like what you guys are saying. So, and that's all it is. Like, they just want to feel safe, and they will remove you to do that. So, of course, it's not going to help because they live in a perpetual state of anxiety and fear anyway. So maybe Alyssa should put down the SSRIs. But with that out of the way, let's get into the stories. But yeah, I don't know Atreus, but I hope that he makes a Rumble channel and just goes there. So, all right, let's get into today's stories. First, news about the Black Panther game. So I thought this was kind of interesting because of the people that were working on it. So the Black Panther video game, developed by Cliffhanger Games under the Electronic Arts sort of like production banner, but was canceled. And an announcement earlier this week on May 28th of 2025, the year of our Lord.
Right.
So they shut down the developer, Cliffhanger Games. So it's not just that they canceled the game; they shut down the developer as part of a strategic shift to focus on what they call established franchises like Battlefield and Apex Legends. The game's been in development since 2021 and was announced in 2023, was a single-player open-world action-adventure title featuring an original story where players could choose to become the Black Panther. And you had a choice between 4 different characters: T'Challa, Shuri, M'Baku, or Eric Killmonger, while battling Skrulls in Wakanda. Despite 4 years of work, the project remained in pre-production, leading to EA's decision to cancel it due to slow progress and uncertainty about its final form. So this is like the press version of what has happened, okay? This cancellation, accompanied by layoffs at Cliffhanger and other EA teams, shocked developers who described the game as amazing, while EA reaffirmed its ongoing partnership with Marvel with other projects like Iron Man, still in development. So there is an Iron Man game in development. So EA is basically in partnership with Marvel. That's where like why they're the people producing the game. But here's the thing that people don't seem to realize about Black Panther game. There were I can't remember the name of the consultant, but there were certain people involved that used to work or have worked alongside Sweet Baby Inc. that were involved in story consulting for the Black Panther game. And what I think happened is, I'm getting a lot of background noise on your end. John, are you doing something?
Just pouring some coffee. So sorry.
Okay. No, it's okay. What happened is, and what I think happened is that the sales of other prominent titles, AAA titles in particular, that have been tainted with the Sweet Baby Inc. or woke consultancy, let's say stench or taint, that basically like resulted in poor sales for a lot of games that were supposed to be slated for big success, like Avowed and Starfield and Dragon Age Veilguard, and the list goes on. What I think is happening now is that essentially the AAA studios are starting to like catch up to what's happening, and they're taking steps. So Toasty with the Mosty says, I never met someone make coffee as loud as him.
Indeed. She has to put
Yeah.
up with it all week long. Hey, Toasty.
It's all right. So what I think is going on is they're basically saying this is not going to be good for us. And I bet, because again, when you look at the plot of the story, it says you get to choose to become the Black Panther. So, but look, I just got to say, in the canon, T'Challa is the Black Panther, period. But they want to essentially just like sort of dilute that by saying, oh, no, it's just a mantle. Just like, you know, Captain America's just a mantle. We can just give it to whoever, right?
Right.
So I think that they fucked with the story. They realize that gamers don't like that when you do that with their beloved IPs. And they're now saying, you know what? I don't think this is going to sound. Now they're on paper, the PR message is, oh, we're just going to focus on Battlefield and Apex Legends, like our established franchises.
Right.
But Battlefield hasn't really been a hit for a while. And I mean, Apex Legends is kind of like one of those things, as far as I know, it's a standard, like, you know, very popular game, very mainstream. I never played it, but from what I understand, it's not going anywhere anytime soon. There's almost no need for EA to like refocus. So I think this is all PR stuff so that they can do the thing they want to do, which is essentially cut loose this woke garbage,
right,
while also not looking like the bad guy. So by saying, well, you know, it's just like we essentially the people
budget cuts.
Yeah, but the people who, and this is a good thing though that this is happening, because it means that what we're doing is working, and all we're doing is not buying their shit and basically talking about why we're not buying their shit, which is even, I would say it's even more important, because if people don't know why it is you're not going to support their product, then they may go on to make the same mistakes, and they will find a scapegoat for why you're not buying it, which is why they usually claim, oh, you're just bigots. But it's like, no, that's just, you know, the truth is that you guys are injecting your progressive current year politics into everything, and we don't like it because it's not good. It doesn't make for an interesting story. It doesn't make up for, you know, like even like decent gameplay, which some of the games that, you know, that have lost money have not really necessarily had like actual like terrible gameplay, but it was fine, but the story was enough to kill it, like you know, Marvel Spider-Man 2 or the Miles Morales game that nobody bought. So it's just because of what the content is. And one of the things that was actually kind of interesting about this too is that one of the people who worked on the story for this game is Amy Hennig, who worked with Neil Druckmann on, well, she was actually I think she was more of a lead writer on the Uncharted series, on Legacy of Kain, and the first Last of Us game. And she left after that, and Neil Druckmann took over. So when I heard she was working on this, because I think Amy Hennig is one of the good writers, I was actually kind of interested to see what she was going to do. But then they also got this Black Girl Gamers person on to do consulting. If you remember, she's notorious for that clip where she says, you know, that she doesn't want to work with white people.
Yeah, her name is Danny Lolanders.
Yeah, they might like microaggress against her,
if I'm
right?
remembering correctly.
Yeah.
I just double checked.
She was attached to this project.
Internet Oracle.
So yeah, she was attached to this project. So, and they, you know, if I remember correctly, they canned the entire studio and they got rid of the project. So who knows how much money they lost on this, but personally, I think it's a good thing. It is a little unfortunate because apparently the game, there was some good ideas in it. So like, for example, they were going to have a Nemesis system inspired mechanic that allowed players to choose from 4 characters to become the Black Panther. So with Skrulls as villains. So like a Nemesis system, kind of like, you know, a lot of people really like the
Shadows of War series.
The Mordor, the Shadows of Mordor series or franchise. So and like that mechanic was unique to that game. Like I don't think any other game did that. So
no, it was patented, if I remember correctly. Yeah,
which would have probably ran into some issues because Warner Brothers owns the Mordor thing. So that might have created, but unless they did it, and because I think there is like a workaround where, you know, you can have something that's similar, but if it's different enough, then you're not going to have any issues. You know, like But it depends. Like there's like a 60%, I think it's like a 60% rule where if it's like 60% the same
Hmm.
or 40% different, then then you can basically avoid legal problems. Like Nintendo has been, trying to sue the pants off of the developers of Pal World or anybody who makes a game that involves you capturing creatures in a ball.
Right.
They're trying to. I don't think that's going to work for them though. Because of their beloved Pokemon franchise. And I also remember Capcom trying to sue the developers of a fighting game called Fighter's History, which was they called it a Street Fighter clone. I would say it was very similar, but there were a lot of games that were doing that anyway. So I don't really see how they have a case. So anyway, so that's the thing about Black Panther being canceled. And I don't know how much money they lost just on what they put in before they had to take it out, but that doesn't bode well for EA. So
No, nor yeah, like there's a lot of companies that I think are kind of uh they're accepting the situation for what it is, and kind of falling back to what I just mentioned, these overt, um, you know, kind of narratives that they try to put into these games. They realize at this point in time, i- the audience that they're seeking will have none of it, and of course, the modern audience doesn't actually exist, so you can't really bank on them to give you anything more than players at best on platforms like what's Xbox platform for Game Pass, because
Mhm.
they don't actually buy things. And so even if you're putting this thing out and then they'll tout, oh, we have this many players. It's like, well, yeah, but how much does this thing actually sell? How much do people actually want to own this and keep it and have it as something, as a keepsake in their life that they can play time and time again? Because it's full of the same overt messaging, uh, the uh, kind of deconstruction of a hero narrative. Anybody can be the hero, blah blah blah. This whole thing, it takes away from that immersive connection that you're supposed to have in storytelling, but that's not what narrative design is based around, as we know.
Mhm.
It's more about being able to identify with the thing that you see in the media that's you know being created, and ultimately, that may work for the short term, but in the long term, as we are seeing, it has become completely ineffective. And once a group of people that have spent decades of their life learning through pattern recognition, they can immediately spot all the warning signs, and then like any informed audience will do, we share that information amongst each other, and we put it out there because these things are made for public consumption. But at the same time, if people still want to go and invest in these titles and things like that, I'm nobody's dad. Make your own choices. I'm not here to tell you what to do. But for a lot of people, there's just no reason to get involved with that kind of thing. And so we are thankfully starting to see, to some degree, these companies coming around and realizing that they can't be so overt in their messaging, um, which unfortunately means that they're just going to start trying to do it more covertly again, which is the process, of course, that they've been using for the last 10, 15 years or so, since they kind of decided that this was the way of the future, was to dilute gaming, and which is also part of the reason why I feel that a lot of games these days are starting to include, as we affectionately call it, journalist mode, and making them more passive experiences so that you don't actually have that interactive capacity to kind of, you know, have a thought process involved with what's going on and being able to gain those skills and pattern recognition. So I will not miss this game. I wasn't planning on purchasing it or even playing it one way or the other,
Yeah.
because I do not support Disney in the things that they have involvement with. I even know that games like Marvel Rivals are fairly popular, and they do a little bit more to kind of play towards the actual fan service and stuff like that. But I would much rather people invest in, new things at this point in time, because those old things that have not only been compromised but have been outright corrupted, they just aren't worth they aren't worth being associated with, because ultimately they're undermining your capacity to actually enjoy anything that is, you know, unique or interesting or good.
Yeah. Yeah, no, fair enough. But so yeah, I'm not terribly surprised that it got canceled, but I am glad it did, because again, it just goes to show that the winds are turning, and now the people whose bottom line is actually affected are starting to respond. So this is really what it comes down to. Like, I think that the people, and we'll get into the next story is related to this one. The people involved, that the people who are paying for this stuff were led to believe that it was going to be a good return on their investment. They were led to believe the modern audience exists, and all they got to do is like attract them, and that the standard audience, or the existing audience, was going to remain. Remember that? We'll get into that later. But let me know what you guys think about this one in the comments. We're going to move on. This is related, okay? So, recent allegations. Let me just find well, actually, there was a recent investigation by the YouTube channel called Gothic Therapy, alleging that Sweet Baby Inc., a narrative consultancy firm in the gaming industry, was not the grassroots startup that it claimed to be when it was founded in 2018 by Kim Belair, David Bedard, and Adrienne McGillivray. Instead, the report suggests that Sweet Baby Inc. was created by the Canadian government from the outset, with a hidden founder, Terence Jason Huberts, who was a former British Columbia legislator from the late 1980s and early 1990s. Official filings uncovered by Gothic Therapy reportedly show Huberts as an initial vice president, director, and shareholder, but his name was erased from the records a year later, with shares reassigned to Belair to craft a different public narrative. The investigation also notes that Sweet Baby Inc. registered an alternative corporate name, Design Sweet Baby. That's the name they went with, which isn't that different. That's like saying, I'm not Dr. Frankenstein. My name is Dr. Stein.
Right.
On the same day, raising questions about a potential backup plan to distance itself from its original identity. The report frames Sweet Baby Inc.'s public mission of promoting diversity and inclusion in gaming as a facade, suggesting it may be a government-backed operation aimed at pushing cultural agenda. Gothic Therapy's findings point to a possible orchestration by state resources, specifically Canada, by the way, challenging the company's curated image as a small progressive studio. However, these claims remain, it's not completely verified, but we're not going to get confirmation from Sweet Baby Inc. or the Canadian government. So there's no way, we're just going to have to go with our gut. And I think that based on what we know, this seems to be accurate. Obviously, there are discussions on X about this. A lot of people are pushing back, but to me, this is obvious. I called it from the beginning. And you know what sends it home, before we get into the meat of this a little bit more, is that, remember Dustborn? Dustborn was funded by some Norwegian government, because they were pushing a narrative agenda. And what I noticed is, as an American, as our let's say our social spheres as individual countries have broadened, the idea of a globalist setup has become more and more obvious, right? So European countries and Canadians and the Chinese and the United Kingdom, they're all trying to influence each other, but in particular, they're trying to influence us. And this is something as United States people, and this is something that's been going on for a long time. Why is Canada so woke? And I think it's a couple of reasons, because that's what Sweet Baby Inc. is. It's Canadian. And Canada is a very woke country, probably more woke than the United Kingdom. And I know that the UK is seen as pretty fucking woke. Canada's probably about as woke as the European Union is, in my opinion. I think one of the reasons is because China has a tremendous amount of influence over Canada, and they do it through British Columbia, BC. If you go to BC, it's actually it's basically China. Everything's in Chinese, and it's all written that way. People speak I don't know what the language of China is, whether it's Cantonese or Mandarin. I think it's Mandarin, but they're all speaking Chinese to each other. And it's like another country, but it's in Canada. And I think that there is a way that China can undermine Canada through the culture, and then Canada tries to undermine the United States.
Yeah.
And so a lot of developers, a lot of people in the entertainment industry, they come from Canada. It's like it's like the CQ, the Canadian question. It does seem to be an issue. So like when you look at Dustborn and the confirmation that we have that was a government-funded op that just happened to flop because it was so unpopular, and then you learn that Sweet Baby Inc. is a Canadian-funded organization, of which, by the way, it's likely only one of many, and that Ubisoft is like a European and also Canadian organization. I mean, like, you have to ask yourself, like, what is the purpose of culture to governments if it isn't to essentially push out a worldview,
Right.
So not by this, and I think it's true, but go ahead.
Yeah, no, this is clearly corporatist-driven globalism, and between the recent investigation by Gothic Therapy and the coverage that I did last year when I, kind of was reading the tea leaves, as it were, and I did I went and I just simply looked where no one else was looking. It's fairly obvious that it's everything that I spoke about in that series that I did called Insert Tokens last year, where Kim Belair herself is a pawn in a globalist scheme to homogenize entertainment and have things that don't actually have nuance or sophistication. They're just done through a very formulaic process. Kim herself came from the Ubisoft marketing department and was effectively spun out of Ubisoft to infiltrate the independent game sphere by setting up these back channel, financial systems that come from the WF and the United Nations through the Rockefeller Foundation. And we know that China has a lot of involvement with those entities. And so everything that we see playing out is a whole system of shell games that are a shell game of corporations that have been created specifically for the utilization of nonprofit organizations and things like that to effectively run almost a money laundering scheme at times, are aspects of it, to have indirect control over a situation that you get your funding from a company that like Sweet Baby Inc. to spin out your independent game, and they'll go and they'll be able to have their narrative consulting be a part of it because that's part of the funding, but they themselves are beholden to these high up money systems that are effectively bent on this idea of bringing everybody to a one world view on how things should be. And it's it's become completely obvious, where I just kind of outlined the structure of how the money flows when I did that series last year. Gothic Therapy went and actually pointed to the people that are specifically involved in this instance at the governmental level inside of Canada. But as you were mentioning with Sweet Baby Inc., they do this throughout the world. And effectively, all these games are now just statist-based propaganda that are all built around this concept of corporatist-driven globalism, trying to bypass any kind of national borders through the employment of financial systems. So it's unfortunately, because we do live in a quote-unquote global market space, they feel that it's far better to try to reach as many people as they can through mass homogenization of products and things like that. And ultimately, they don't want people to have strong voices of independence with their own personality and character. If you want to tell your stories, tell your stories. But the way this thing is structured and the way that it's been carried out is quite insidious. and it's pretty obvious that when you get past that surface level and take the time to just look into it, that this thing is a whole globally orchestrated scheme to undermine the very concept of like actual artistic expression that's coming from a place of integrity and real passion. And this is just, going to make interactive media far worse in the long term, because as much as we sit here and we've mentioned don't buy these games, such as Black Panther that did get canceled before it came out, or and this goes back to, of course, Suicide Squad and Veilguard, Avowed, all the other titles that have been mentioned. If we're not going to do that, and we tell people, hey, look towards the independents, this is their way of still trying to secure that bag, because they ultimately are just concerned about the profiteering end of it. And if they know that their name is mud, effectively at those AAA, quadruple A, as they like to call themselves, levels, then they need to get themselves into what is considered more of a AA or an independent sphere of influence.
Yeah. And also, I want to also add, because Kim Belair and the people who cape for her will say that they are not publicly funded and that they're privately funded or whatever. But that's just not true. Let me also point out that it is possible for private companies to receive government funding while claiming to be privately funded. Yep. And they do it through indirect or opaque mechanisms that obscure the source of their finances. So like NGOs, which stands for non-government organizations, get a lot of government money, which basically means they are GOs, not NGOs. And there's all these loopholes and workarounds to get government funding. They will use grants, tax credits, subsidies. They're often structured in ways that don't require public disclosure of the amounts received or the recipients' identities. For example, during the COVID-19 pandemic, the Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy Program allowed profitable corporations to collect subsidies without mandatory transparency, as noted in a 2023 study by Canadians for Tax Fairness. This lack of disclosure enables companies to downplay or omit their reliance on public funds while emphasizing private investment or revenue in their public narratives. So just something I dug up to explain that there are ways that they can say, oh, no, we're privately funded. But they're, if you look on paper, that's what it looks like, but it's just not true. Okay. Right. So they basically hidden the funding. Like I said, NGOs are actually just GOs. Okay. So that is the story with that. I thought it was worth mentioning. This is kind of from 2 weeks ago, but I didn't cover it last week because I had so much on my plate. Let me respond to a couple of chat comments. If you guys are watching on Rumble, please be active in the chat, because I do see there's at least 20 people watching, and that's great. That most people are watching on Rumble, because my that means that I have more of an incentive to just stay on Rumble exclusively, because I do have some plans for streaming on Rumble that I certainly cannot stream on YouTube, and I'm going to get to that a little bit later.
Indeed.
Master Goa says NPR claims it's publicly funded too, but it's a lie. NGO is a buzzword for unofficial arm of government. Absolutely, 100%. Let me see. Norwegian Black Templar says, to my brothers over at YouTube, come over to Rumble. YouTube is for fags.
Clear cut.
Let's see. Massacre says, I like Kirsha, but her modern audience doesn't exist as BS. They exist. You see them screeching everywhere. They just don't buy things because all their money is devoted to iPhones and soy lattes. Well, I think that's kind of what she means. I think, just to be fair to Kirsha, when she says the modern audience doesn't exist, what she means is that the people that you're trying to appeal to are not customers that are going to spend their money on your product. And you can see that by the sales. Or at the very least, there's not as many of them as you think, because the loudest voices on Tumblr or X or Reddit, or Blue Sky that are crying about representation and shit online, they're probably a pretty small number of people. And most people of all different, walks of life are interested in just good games. But This is important to put in the context of the fact that more people play video games now than probably ever have, because video games are not a nerdy little side niche hobby. It's like everybody does it on some level, especially of like, let's say Generation X and younger, Generation X, millennials, Zoomers, etc.
Yeah.
So like that being said, when Kirsha says the modern audience doesn't exist, what she's saying is that the developers are trying to cater to a group of people who have no interest in buying their products. They just have interest in changing their products.
Right.
To the people who say they demand representation, they demand woke narratives, they demand LGBTQ themes, whatever, but they're not the people who will buy the game. And even if some of them did buy the game, it wouldn't be enough to make a dent in the profit itself, which is why and like Grums and others have said, look, just don't buy their shit. And to sort of like dovetail off of what John is saying, then I'll move on to the next story. AAA, all AAA titles should be suspect, all of them. And I'm not saying you should ignore them completely, but anything that comes out of a AAA studio should be suspect, because the way that these people operate, and I've said this many times, it's always top down. And if they can't get top-down control, they'll work from the very bottom up, like as an indie, very, very small studio, which a lot of them did. Phil Fish was definitely a woke guy that got so butthurt over, like gamers having opinions online that he just quit and retired after making what was a pretty, from what I understand, a solid game called Fez. But like they usually go top-down if they can, because they presume. And this goes back to something else that came up in another story that I may be able to cover in this next one. I remember, I think it was this story where they said, "Oh no, with the RPG crowd, they'll buy anything. They don't like they'll eat up whatever you put like in front of them, like the Dragon Age, the Veilguard, like that." They were like, "No, we got those people locked in. They're gonna buy our game no matter what." And I'm gonna talk about that in a second, but they always go top down. So all AAA studios should be suspect just right off the bat. Okay. Let me see what else you guys are saying. Toasty says, I reposted the live stream. Thank you, Toasty. I love Rumble. John Ford says, playing the Stellar Blade demo on Steam. Oh, that's cool. I don't think my computer can run it yet, but I may be streaming that one for Goon in June.
Nice.
Like June is Goon in June, and that's going to be like fan servicey waifu game. So
indeed,
Blade's definitely got to be in there,
and it'll be our 1-year anniversary, I believe.
Yes.
Fairly soon.
Oh, so, yeah. Norwegian Black Templar says the woke use Soviet tactics to infiltrate and take over. Yeah, but it's always top down. That's basically what I'm saying. Zara Sin says BlackRock is not the future of gaming. Venture capital making multiple small investments in talent-rich small studios is the direction I see the industry going in long term. Yes, there will be people who will try the top-down thing, but I'm going to show you guys where gaming is headed and why you should be optimistic. And not just because you get to play games you like that are good. It's also because it means the culture itself is healing. But I'll come to that in a second. All right. So
yeah. And if I could just mention briefly, there is a good independent title that is on sale right now for $3 over on Steam. If you've never played Broforce, I would highly recommend
I love Broforce. I love Broforce.
Yeah,
I want them to make a sequel. Oh, $3. Hell fucking yeah, get it. I'll get it. I mean, I have it on the PlayStation, but I'll get it.
Yeah, I know. I had it on PlayStation, but I stopped playing for my paying for my my PSN account. So I was like, well, I love Broforce. I want to be able to play the game with other people because it's a great multiplayer game.
4-player co-op. Super destructive. I played it with my wife from start to finish. All right, but anyway, next story. All right, David Gator. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I'm not trying to be smart.
No, that's
former lead writer. Yeah, former lead writer for BioWare's Dragon Age Origins, Dragon Age 2, and Dragon Age Inquisition. Recently sparked attention with comments made in a Games Radar interview on May 25th, 2025. Gator criticized a group he calls antifans, describing them as outspoken critics who actively work to see certain games fail as a form of punishment for creative decisions that they disagree with. He expressed concerns that these individuals, unlike supportive fans who promote games, are determined to sabotage projects before launch by focusing on elements that they dislike, turning their criticism into a personal mission to undermine the game's success. Gator's remarks come amidst broader discussions about the gaming industry's challenges with some pointing to BioWare's own struggles under EA's influence, particularly after 2017, when Geider notes EA finished digesting the studio. Critics argue that Geider's focus on anti-fans overlooks deeper issues such as developers prioritizing broad appeal over the desires of core fans, as seen in some of Dragon Age's gameplay and narrative shifts. And it's the thing about Dragon Age. Everybody talks about it like it's a golden child, but I feel like when people are actually like, when they talk about the franchise, it's kind of hit or miss, isn't it? Like Dragon Age Origins, everybody loves. I played it. I thought it was okay. It didn't blow my skirt up, but if you liked it, I wouldn't like shame you for that. I thought Dragon Age Origins was fine. Then there was Dragon Age, was this 2, which some people hated because it was a little bit more like, simplified, a little dumbed down. And then there was Dragon Age Inquisition, which I think people liked again. So it's kind of like up and down, up and down. So it's not like this was like a solid, like Mass Effect is like Mass Effect 1, 2, 3. They just got better. And then like Andromeda came out and people were like, why does this game exist? So I think that it's weird that we're like, kind of like there's all this almost like coping around the Dragon Age franchise. But anyway, argue that Geider's focus on anti-fans overlooks deeper issues. So Geider is a key figure in BioWare's Golden Age. He's got credits on Baldur's Gate 2, which I've heard really good things about, and Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. Mm-hmm. He defends the creative process. His comments have fueled debates about accountability, fan expectations, and the role of criticism in shaping the game's landscape. Let me put this, there's 2 things to say about this. Number one, fans do not necessarily celebrate the failure of games.
No.
But they are making their voices heard by not buying your game if they don't like the crap that you put in it. And one of the things that, in particular, Dragon Age the Veilguard and a lot of these modern AAA woke, pieces of garbage do is they break the immersion by, injecting modern politics and even like modern ways of communicating. It's like everybody's written like it's a Joss Whedon TV show. Right. Like they're all very self-aware, and the art style is cringy. I heard people talking about Dragon Age Inquisition looking really ugly, or not Inquisition, the Veilguard, looking really ugly, and the characters look like Fortnite DLC or something, like some kind of like,
very plasticine.
Yeah, they look like cartoonish, and then of course you got like the whole non-binary thing, and people are rejecting that. And the thing is, too, is on the one hand, you got this guy saying, oh, they're anti-fans and they're celebrating, they want this to fail. It's like, no, they don't. But like, if you give them a product they don't want, then they're going to vocally reject it because they don't owe you a purchase. Like you have to appeal to them and say, would you please buy this game? You have to be grateful. Like Tom Cruise, when he put out the last Mission Impossible movie and he visited theaters and he put out statements and he was basically just being like extremely humble and grateful that people took the time to go watch his movie because he knew that like all the other people in Hollywood were just attacking the fans for not downloading their bullshit movies, like, for not watching them on Disney Plus or going to the theater or whatever.
Right.
So he approached it with class and humility that a lot of people in the gaming industry don't have. So that's part of it. And the other thing is, like I was saying before, EA, I believe it was EA, they made this mistake of presuming that their fan base for the Dragon Age franchise was a given. They were like, oh no, these guys are nerds. They're culture junkies. Remember, I use that term culture junkie. This is what I mean. They presume that you're going to buy whatever slop they put out, no matter what, because you're going to buy the brand. Or don't you want the brand? Here's the brand. And if you reject it, and this is like proof of that, because they were like, oh no, they'll buy our shit. Oh, we'll just make it for the broader audience. So the people that we already have locked in, like the dedicated fan base, they're going to buy whatever we put out no matter what. And then we might be able to reach more people. But that's the mistake, because people did not do that. And so they made the mistake of assuming that there were that many culture junkies that would just get the new thing. And they also alienated their core fan base, as well as like they did not reach the mythical modern audience that was going to give them all the sales that they were missing out. So last thing I'll say about this, you cannot broaden your customer base while also cutting out the foundation that made sort of alienates the core audience.
Right.
You have to keep your core audience, and if you can try to reach more people, but you have to do that without sacrificing the integrity of the core.
Right.
And I think that Dragon Age has always wrestled with that, which is why I think it's, as a franchise, is flip-flopped. So anyway, that's my thoughts on that. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, it's because as you're stating, they're operating under a consumer model, and a consumer model has no respect or regard for legitimate customers, and so that's the thing that's gone off course here, is that their business tactics do not actually uh, give any appreciation to the thing that quote unquote got them to the dance, as it were, and they just assume that anybody that's ever been interested in this is going to stay interested because brand IPs, my nostalgia, and all this kind of stuff. But then you look at a title specifically like Dragon Age when it came out this last year on Halloween, and it utterly failed. And the reason of that is because when people look at that, what does where's the transing center? Like you're in this fantastical, mythical, world space that has absolutely nothing to do with the here and now and our day-to-day reality. And so the idea that you're going to have trans characters completely breaks the immersion in a story such as that. But again, this is the problem with operating under the idea that things are about identity politics and that you operate from a system of narrative design. And it's very short-sighted, beyond being misguided, in the idea that you can just assume an audience. You have to earn an audience. And that's what the difference between actually having a profitable business model is, in terms of, we have to steward these properties that we own because we're in this together with the audience. We actually have to show them respect as our customers, rather than just assume that they're consumers that'll just, eat it all up like little piggies and just take whatever slop that's thrown down in front of them. And so this is, to see someone like David Gator taking this reactionary kind of standpoint, just goes to show how these people grow more out of touch and caught up in the delusion of the structure that they're a part of, because they themselves are just foot soldiers in this wider plot to undermine legitimate storytelling and the human experience overall, because they just want people to be compliant, pliable automatons that just go along with whatever the authority, in whatever capacity, offers them, and then they just fall right in line. And that's not the way any of this should work. If you want to reach out and gain more customers, I understand that. That's the nature of business. But to undermine the very core of the audience, as you were talking about, to try to achieve that and then assume that that core audience is going to stay there, is one of the most ignorantly arrogant things that someone could set about having their mindset built around. So to David Gator, he worked on games that I did appreciate. I definitely loved the living shit out of Knights of the Old Republic series when it first came out. The first two games are quite good. I never played the live service model game, but you can have the magic and lose it, and it's like that for a wide variety of things. Like just like I'm getting ready after this show ends today. I have to watch the final episode of this season's Doctor Who that has been funded in a large part by Disney. Yeah, I know. I'm not happy about it, but I've got Who TF Cares tomorrow over on Will Fans channel. So
talk about it.
Yeah, I gotta talk about it, so I had to know what I'm talking about. But yeah, like they're losing sight of the very thing that even gave them the opportunity. And so these people that stand on the shoulders of giants act as though they have somehow done this great thing, when it's like, no, dude, you're just supposed to come in and be a steward and keep a watch over this and actually give it the care and attention that you had for it when you were a child before you became jaded and so caught up in this system that was just about, just self-aggrandizement and all this kind of crap that goes along with these people. You can't even have a conversation with them because they have no respect for you. And so, of course, they're going to sit here and call you an anti-fan. I'm not quite sure what that is, because I think that anybody that takes time to say that they have an interest in what you're doing, whether it be positive or negative, does fall under that umbrella of general fandom. And people have every right to be critical and to speak
Yeah.
about the things that you're expecting them to you know either purchase or just in their mind just mindlessly consume. And when we break that bond that they are trying to establish, where we just take it without speaking out, that's when you start seeing them do all these other methodologies they have to try to censor any kind of dissent. And so that's why you see terms of service now, where if you say anything disparaging, your reviews won't be posted, and this and that. And this isn't, any one specific entity. They do this on Amazon ratings and reviews now. They do this on, I believe, Rotten Tomatoes has this kind of thing, and where all these kinds of things where they just don't want people to know. So they want you to be ill-informed and just look at things at the surface level and just get captivated by whatever nostalgia you may have coming into it. And if you have any second thoughts or complaints after making that association, well, then you're the one who's at fault, not the person who actually committed to the action that set the whole ball rolling.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, let us know what you guys think about this one in the comments. Yeah, don't let them take you for granted. That's what they did, and I think that was a big mistake. But again, AAA, it's all over. It's all ogre for them, and also it's ogre for Hollywood. It looks like so. Hollywood's in big trouble. And I think this is going to the Tom Cruise thing I said before. I think that despite Tom Cruise being really classy and humble, I think that there's a reason for it. And I think it is terror that the entire industry is it's in serious danger. So Hollywood and the film industry are indeed facing significant financial challenges driven by the high costs of production in California. That's due to the government and also corporations, but mostly the government and all of the various fees and taxes and all that shit, and the increasing integration of AI technologies, which threaten to disrupt traditional roles and workflows. A Milken Institute study from May 27, 2025, highlights that California's production environment is uniquely expensive due to a high cost of living, a complex film credit process, and a burdensome permitting system. Los Angeles charges $3,724 for a permit application, okay, compared to $1,000 in New York City, which isn't a lot better, or $400 in Atlanta, Georgia. These costs, combining with a strong US dollar and competition from regions like Georgia, New York, and Canada offering more generous tax incentives — Canada is big on that, as well as Europe and the UK, have led to sharp decline in local filming. Film LA reports that Los Angeles recorded only 23,480 shoot days in 2024, the second lowest in decades, with a 22.4% drop in Q1 2025 compared to the previous year. Governor Gavin Newsom has proposed expanding California's film tax credit from $330 million to $750 million annually to counter this exodus, but critics argue this may not be enough amid potential pressures like recent wildfires and a shrinking tax base because people are leaving California.
Mm-hmm.
AI is further complicating the industry's financial landscape by offering cost-saving potential while threatening jobs. Generative AI tools are already being used in story development, visual effects, editing, and more, with industry leaders like Jeffrey Katzenberg predicting that AI could reduce the cost of a $200 million animated film to a $20 million film within 3 years, as noted in a November 2023 statement. Tools like Sora and 11 Labs are enabling rapid production of high-quality visuals and sound, potentially cutting costs dramatically. For example, a South Korean CEO demonstrated at TIFFCon 2024 that AI could slash a $4.1 million budget to only $400,000. However, a CVL economic study from January 30th, 2024 estimates that AI will disrupt 62,000 jobs in California within 3 years in entertainment. Not obviously, it's going to disrupt jobs everywhere, but specifically in entertainment.
Right.
Particularly affecting entry-level roles like concept artists and sound engineers. While AI was used in Oscar-nominated films like The Brutalist for voice adjustments, its broader adoption raises ethical concerns, with Hollywood unions securing some protections after 2023 strikes, but remaining vigilant. The industry is at a crossroads, balancing AI's cost-saving potential against the risk of job losses and the cultural legacy of human-driven filmmaking. And also, no, I know it's been going around, but I think it's like VO3 is like the newest AI
Yeah.
that they have used to put some film clips together. And like that, like we have gotten that far this quickly in like, I don't know, 5 years. You probably can make movies and not use any actors. And it would
Right.
be like, it could be a high quality film. I don't
Right.
know if that's like, I'm not saying that's right or wrong or good or bad, but the truth is that Hollywood has always spent way too much money on things. They have not been very efficient, and it's starting to bite them in the ass. And with the way that the state of California has been governed, and the poor handling of all of the wildfires and all of the crazy fees and all of that, I mean, it looks really bad for Hollywood specifically. But that means that there's opportunities for independent filmmakers and content creators to step up, and I think that is also happening. So anyway, I just wanted to like put that out there. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly one of these things where, like, and nobody can see me sitting here with my tinfoil hat because I am coming through as a PNG tuber John today. But I honestly believe, and you've heard me mention this before in the show, that DEI hires were made for DEI fires. And as we have a picture of Hollywood caught up in an inferno behind us, this whole system that was set up was so that they could play this out to this degree, bring in a whole bunch of people who don't have talent, skill, and ability, that are willing to go along with the scheme of things, because they're only concerned about their own personal motivations and self-interests. And ultimately, you don't have the talent, skill, and ability base there for when the turnaround happens, which is what's going on now, and they lose their jobs in mass, and everybody else who got filtered out of that system to make a place for these people that quite honestly didn't earn their way into those positions because they don't actually have any inherent value. They're easily expendable. And so once you build these automated systems that can do just as good as they can, if not better, because anything that is written through an algorithmic scripting just follows the formula that's been laid out for it. So this is the canary in the coal mine, so to speak, on where the future is headed. Because when you look at, say, a Disney Marvel movie, right? Most of what you're watching is CGI animation throughout, and if the only thing that they're really paying for are a few headshots of an actor and effectively their voice quality, then it only makes sense for them to save themselves millions of dollars to begin with by not actually hiring those actors and just using facsimiles that can stand in their places, that you don't have to pay for, that you don't have to worry about, going out and saying things like weird, weird, and causing a whole bunch of, upheaval in your potential audience. So you reap what you sow, and I feel no love lost for what Hollywood's going through right now. I'll be honest, I don't really watch a lot of current day movie offerings unless I absolutely have to for the various shows that I'm a
Research
part of.
purposes, yeah.
Right. But yeah, it's hard nowadays to actually find something that even says something unique or interesting, and and you can still have perspectives that will challenge people's ideals and things like that. But that's not what the system's been built around. And so for them to now be suffering this loss, so to speak, it's really only hitting those people who, like I said, didn't really earn their space to begin with. And so if Hollywood wants to become more derivative and just driven by robotic systems that are automated,
Yeah.
then it's just par for the course. And anybody who would have been looking at this with common sense and a long view perspective years ago can sit here and tell you, much like I am right now, this is exactly where it was always going to lead, because there's no way that you can actually get anything of substantial value when all it's built upon is empty virtue signaling. So,
Yeah.
you know, uh, I won't. None of these projects will be missed by me that are constantly failing, and the people that are now out of jobs, sitting here assuming that they're entitled to, just have an audience or keep their jobs even when they don't actually do something that has a proper return on investment.
Yeah.
This is, grow a backbone, actually have some artistic integrity. If you got into that position and didn't even earn it, at least try to earn it when you're there on the ground, and be a part of the actual creative process, not just this derivative widget system that just does things formulaically. So,
Yep.
you know,
Yep. And yeah, I mean, like essentially, Hollywood has become Sodom and Gomorrah, and this was inevitable. Like like enough entropy is allowed to creep into something, and it will eventually destroy it. You can even look at the fires themselves as a product of that entropy, that laziness, that you know, unwillingness to keep up. The understand like that these systems, these organizations, these organisms have to be like maintained, and when you ignore it for a while, then things just fall apart. So
yep.
yeah, I mean, you get what you deserve, I guess. I got a Rumble rant. Thank you for
Hmm.
the Rumble rant. Noba fan 21 gives $1 and says, "I'm laughing so hard at the commies acting like their communist trash isn't what ruined art and media literacy, but somehow us chuds for wanting manly men and feminine women."
Indeed.
Well, it's a long process, been going on a while, and if you're interested, I do some sort of like film analysis stuff, media analysis stuff with Dean. He's a Sneak Cola. I've had him on my show before. He worked in the game jams, and he just finished editing and uploading us discussing the film The Mist
Hmm.
with Thomas Jane, based on the book by Stephen King. But it's an improvement over the book. Honestly, it's a great movie. And we also have two other videos coming out. One is for a film called GoldenEye, which you may have heard of as a James Bond movie, and another one called Accepted, which is about
Getting into college.
getting into college. You saw that. Yeah, I ranted about that one a bit. I ranted about that one. So I would
Nice.
say, I'll if you guys are interested, I'll put a link to Dean's YouTube channel in the description or in the comments, so you can see more of me ranting about media. So anyway, with that said, let us move on to the next story. I can't wait to see what you guys think about what I said about Hollywood and AI. But at the end of the day, I mean, like, honestly, what will be the future of our media doesn't have to be AI. It just needs to be authenticity. And I think that there is a lot of people that are hungry, that are talented, that are capable, and that Hollywood's not going to be able to gatekeep, because that's part of what it did, right? Like, what is Harvey Weinstein or these other big producers like him? What they were gatekeeping, what kind of, not only who got to be famous, which of course a lot of these guys do, not because of talent, but because of willingness to do favors for people.
Hmm.
Casting couch is real, and also they leave out like authentically talented people, like really good at what they do. So I think that it's going to make room for that, and we just have to wait and see. And I think that it's going to be interesting going forward. So I wouldn't worry too much. I just let it ride, let them burn. It's okay. We'll be fine. So
Yep.
anyway, so speaking of the industry, I want to talk a little bit about AA games. So the AAA gaming industry is grappling with significant challenges because they have overbloated budgets, and AA studios are increasingly thriving by leveraging more manageable costs and creative flexibility. AAA game development budgets have skyrocketed, often exceeding $200 million for titles slated for 2024 and 2025, with some franchises like Call of Duty surpassing $300 million and marketing costs potentially doubling that figure. And this, by the way, is the reason why the AAA gaming industry, a lot of people in it are saying, oh, looks like games are just going to be more expensive. What was it, the Borderlands guy? He said, oh, yeah, $80. If you're a real fan, you'll buy it, right? That's because they've become AAA and they're trying to justify their massive budgets by increasing the costs of games. They're trying to change the standard, but of course, they don't get to decide that. You do.
Right.
So anyway, some franchises like Call of Duty surpassing 300 million and marketing costs potentially doubling that figure. These high expenses stem from large teams, sometimes involving 400 to 600 people across multiple studios. Extensive voice acting, hyper-realistic graphics, and massive marketing campaigns aimed at ensuring blockbuster sales. However, this model is proving unsustainable, which I've been saying for years, by the way, as seen with the cancellation of projects like the Black Panther game by Cliffhanger Games, where slow progress and high costs and also high risks with the storytelling, because you don't know who you're going to alienate. If you spend like $250 million on a game that nobody wants because they don't want Shuri to be the Black Panther, you're going to lose even more money. So this has led to studio closures. The pressure to deliver on such investments often results in a risk-averse formulaic games, with critics like David Yater pointing to anti-fans who react against these trends, though some argue that this deflects from deeper issues like misaligned priorities and fan alienation. In contrast, AA studios are flourishing by operating with smaller budgets, typically $5 to $50 million, and smaller teams of 50 to 100 developers, allowing for more innovation and agility. They can be more flexible because of a small team of people. And I'm not even getting into the indie stuff. I mean, like, the AA stuff is really good. Like, it's cutting edge in its own way. It's just not like a behemoth. It's like working within a scope that makes sense. These studios, like Remedy with their upcoming FBC Firebreak, focus on gameplay and story over expensive cutscenes or extensive voiceovers in multiple languages, cutting costs while maintaining quality. Posts on X reflect sentiment that AA games are outperforming AAA titles in 2024-2025, with investors taking notice as smaller teams use better software tools and AI to compete effectively. This shift suggests a potential industry pivot where AAA's models inefficiencies like the mythical man-month problem of overstaffing are driving talent and success towards AAA studios that balance creativity and financial pragmatism. So what are some games that we're talking about here? There's a lot of good examples of AA games that have seen notable success in 2024 and 2025. For example, one standout is Helldivers 2, which I have brought up multiple times. Helldivers 2 has an amazing story of rise and fall and rise again, where they just released a new event called Heart of Democracy, I think. And it is essentially an invasion on the home planet of Super Earth by the Illuminate, and everybody is playing it. It's got like over 150,000 people at any given time playing the game, which is not quite at the peak of 300,000, but considering how many countries Sony cut out when they, pull their bullshit on them, they're doing pretty good. And the fact that Arrowhead, a AA studio, is going to move forward and make their next game completely free from Sony's grasp because of the money they made from Helldivers 2, then we only can expect more good news from them in the future. So Helldivers 2, what else we got here? Another example is Pal World, released in January 2024 by Pocket Pair, which blended survival and creature collecting mechanics. It sold 5 million copies in its first 3 days, reaching a peak of 1.8 million concurrent players on Steam, showcasing how AA games can achieve blockbuster success. This is like the most recent one that everyone's talking about, Claire Obscure Expedition 33, released in early 2025 by Sandfall Interactive, has been a critical darling, earning over 90% positive reviews across platforms for its turn-based RPG mechanics and Belle Epoque-inspired world. By the way, I want to mention that going back to the Dragon Age thing that I brought up before, where they said, oh, these guys will eat up whatever you put in front of them. One of the things that AAA studios did not think players wanted was turn-based RPG mechanics, which Clair Obscur Expedition 33 has. So it or like Persona, the Persona games do, which are still very popular. Hades by Supergiant Games, while originally released in 2020, continued to be a benchmark for AA success in 2024. With its sequel, Hades 2, entering early access in May of 2024 and quickly amassing a dedicated following for its refined roguelike formula. And there's other examples. Space Marine 2 is a AA studio. There is a new game. Oh, I forget what it's called. I gotta find it. But it's basically like a there are people who used to work in bigger studios that have gone to smaller ones to sort of do something else. So you guys remember Avowed, which was a failure. They recently released a remake of Oblivion, which I know a lot of people like or whatever. But then there is another game. I don't know if we have time. We might be able to do it when we look at some cake. I can find it, but it's like I forget the name of it, but it's something Avalon, and I might have, because I downloaded the demo, but I found that it wouldn't run really well. Tainted Grail.
Yeah,
Tainted Grail: The Fall of Avalon, and that is another kind of Skyrim, Oblivion type of game that I'm hearing lots of good things about.
I just got a gifted copy of it yesterday.
Oh, you got a gift? That's nice.
Yeah.
Does it run on your Steam Deck? Have you tried it yet?
I have not installed it. I will be doing that later today to check out and see how well it runs on the Steam Deck, but I will report back next week.
Another game that this one's still early going, but I heard about this from somebody on X reached out to me, and it is a ARPG in the same sort of vein as Diablo 2, and it is being made by former Blizzard developers. So if you remember, I brought this up before, and I think it's absolutely crucial that people don't forget this. Blizzard got hit with a Me Too allegation a few years ago, a while back, and it was basically no evidence of anything, but there was an open letter basically condemning Blizzard for harassing women in the workplace, and a bunch of guys lost their jobs. And then Blizzard went to shit because all those guys that were good at what they did lost their jobs, and they were replaced with people who don't actually have talent or skill or ability. And so Blizzard went downhill. Okay. And I don't know if it's in the gutter right now, but it's certainly not what it was. There was a time when Blizzard could do no wrong. Everything they made was always gold, right?
Yep.
And I know, but so these guys, the studio is called Moon Beast, and they are working on a new game that I'm trying to find the name of. I shared it around. I just got to find where.
While you're searching, I'll fill some time. I actually I like to do, as people can tell from the thumbnails that I make for the show, I like to make parodies on logos and things like that. And so I actually have an activism buzzard logo that I'm just waiting for the appropriate story to apply it to when the time comes. But yeah, the situation is fairly obvious that when we're talking about successful things being able to be done with manageable budgets, you look at something that came out like Assassin's Creed earlier recently this year, and just the end credit sequence alone takes 2 hours to have that scroll go through, and so you have these super overinflated budgets that almost require you to make $1 billion, or hundreds of millions to even get to where they are covering those development costs, let alone actually having an actual profitable return on their investments. And so to any of these investors out there, you got to stop putting so much money in these things that become, too big to succeed, because there's no way that
Hmm.
you're going to be able to actually get anything that you've put into it over a decade or however many years you put into it with that many people. The burn rate on the amount of money that you're putting into these things, it just isn't there. And so really what we should be seeing in the gaming market and just media in general at this point in time is we should see a proliferation of investment into smaller studios that have artistic integrity and have something to say, and let the market bear out based on those competing ideas, rather than just having these over bloated, budgeted kind of things that are done in a very widget based manner that don't have any distinction or difference other than the skin that's on the same middleware that's being utilized throughout the wide scale system of AAA and quote unquote quadruple A titles that are being offered. So
Yeah,
it's really their own fault for trying to invest too much in something that's going to return way too little.
for sure. So I found it, and the game doesn't have a title yet. That's how early it is in development.
Right on.
But it is made by the team is called Moonbeast, and they put out a developers live stream. I'll show you guys a little bit of it in after we're done with the stories, so you guys can see. But there's definitely a lot of the reason why I think the double A space is going to be huge is because a lot of guys that were engaged in wrong think that used to work in AAA gaming, they got fired, they got ousted, they got pushed out. Maybe the entire climate got bad. I mean, people were, the maybe that the environment changed because of Me Too or the Black Lives Matter protests or the Trump election, whatever it was. It gave people crazy brain, and some of these guys were either pushed out or they felt they had to leave or something, right?
Hmm.
So but they still have talent, and they're gonna go out and they're gonna make stuff. And I think that when they do, we should pay attention, because I'm telling you, the next big legendary IP is gonna come out of that. Another great developer that I should mention is SemiWork, who gave us Repo, which, by the way, is they can't even conceive of how successful their game is. And part of it, I think, has to do with the fact that the AAA is just not delivering. So people are looking for, they're looking for their fun elsewhere, and they're
Right.
finding it. Like, thank God for Steam.
Yeah.
Because that's the only place where you can look at Schedule One. One dude made that game, and
Right.
it's massive, right? So
Right.
there's a lot of really good examples of people that are getting it done well, and we should just be following that.
Yeah.
And forget it. Like, Far Cry is dead. Like, Ubisoft is dead. There's a lot of IPs that they're just not probably going to come back anytime soon, and we just have to find decent substitutes. So look into the Tainted Grail, because that's going to be good,
Hmm.
and look for be on the lookout for this Moonbeast game, which I'm going to show you guys a little
Yeah.
bit
Well, I
later.
mean,
But here's
the
a
game that we played a couple of weeks back, Repo, is
yeah,
yet
Repo.
another one
Yeah,
of games that I would put on that list. That
yeah.
because that's the thing with games, is they operate on flow states. They
Hmm.
once you get past the familiar intellectual property brand, which is what a lot of these large scale companies are putting all of their eggs in the basket of, is that, oh, people will see this name and they'll just automatically assume quality, and that doesn't mean anything. Like, I've met people in my life, as we all have, that relationships change over time, and you can be really invested in someone, and then when you find out that they basically have this insidious double life, that is a contradiction in terms of who you thought they were, and when that comes to light, inevitably you usually break those relationships and you move on, and you rarely ever go back to those people. And so I always find it interesting, in this space where there's a whole bunch of people that are just like, "Oh, it's a return to form. It's getting good again. Go ahead and give it another shot." And it's akin to, being involved with a woman, or some, like, significant other that you may have in your life, based on whether you're a man or a woman, that you come to find out has, like, this, like, they go out on the weekends and they prostitute themselves in one way, shape, or form or another, and they have like this whole kind of like, double life that is involved in anything but you. And then you want to go and say, oh, well, they say they've changed. These are the qualities of an abusive relationship. And so stop allowing these, you know, uh, perpetrators of this, kind of, um, I don't want to say violence because it's not necessarily that. And when it comes to media, but these people that have no goodwill towards you and don't operate in a system of good faith, stop giving them the benefit of the doubt. Stop giving them second, third, fourth, 12th, 87th chances. At a certain point in time, you can't even hold them responsible, because if you're going along with it, then it's kind of your cross to bear, where you're simply allowing yourself to be gullible and duped, just at the mere mention of an "I'm sorry," because "I'm sorries" don't mean anything without an actual contextual reason as to admitting what the issue is. Like, if I apologize to you and I just say I'm sorry, what am I sorry for? And if I don't give you that, then there's probably not anything on my side of the equation that is, evoking anything about some soul searching and some actual repentance, or trying to reform my interaction with you. I'm probably just trying to placate you so that I can just go about having a nice, easy life without being hampered with your problems of what I'm
Hmm.
doing and then holding you responsible for it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So let us know what you guys think about this one in the comments. I think that it's very, let's say I am encouraged by this, because I think that the AA studios, they tend to, like, they recognize that they're small and they have to, work very efficiently, and they have to take their development seriously. They have to be, aware of what the risk is. And I think the AAA studios, they make the mistake of trying to play it safe while also maximizing how much it costs to make a game. And they probably have to pay not only for inordinate fees for like marketing
Mhm.
and voice acting and high fidelity graphics, and like for consultants, but they probably also have to pay a bunch of money to like essentially the woke grifters that are telling them, like, what is it, terrify them with the prospect of what might happen to you if you don't
Yep,
give them what they want. I mean, I'm
yep.
sure that costs money too, probably a lot. So anyway, let us know what you guys think about this one in the comments. And now we're going to go to the last story. It's a short one, but I think it's worth bringing up. So you probably know about the YouTube channel called Andy Pants Gaming.
Mhm.
And Andy Pants, the guy who made the channel, he created a game of his own, and it's called Chad versus the Gay Nazis. And it is an indie game that has been banned across multiple platforms due to its provocative title and content. I don't
Right.
know what's provocative about. What is it? The word Chad, the word gay, or the word Nazis? Maybe
Right.
it's the word versus. I don't know. Developed by a small, largely anonymous team, the game appears to be satirical or deliberately inflammatory action title pitting a Chad character against Nazi antagonists. Like, well, basically the woke, okay?
Mhm.
They're like the gay race communists, which is what I have called them, the global homo gay race communists. And he is basically making, like, trying to make the quintessentially anti-woke game, okay?
Yeah.
So it's been taken off of it's been banned from itch.io, Steam, GOG, basically everywhere.
Mhm.
And from what I can tell, the only place you can get it is, close this. There might still be a place where you can get it. Yeah. It's basically, he had to make a website for it. So
Right.
it's been removed from itch, Shopify, Gumroad, Steam, etc. And he says you can still get it here. So you can go to Chad versus the gaynazis.com to get your hands on the game if you want. It's $10. I bought it. I bought it when it was still on, I think it was on Shopify, and I bought it
Yep.
there. And I plan to stream this game. So I'm going to
Mm.
play it. and I'm going to stream it on Rumble exclusively because I don't think YouTube would like it if I did it.
Indeed, indeed.
But I will be streaming this game on Rumble. So if you want to watch, please follow my Rumble channel. I'm going to be putting up exclusive Rumble streams and, maybe videos. So, if you want to see the gameplay, you want to see a full playthrough of Chad versus the gay Nazis, then follow my Rumble channel. Because, if you tell me that this game should not be played, I'm going to want to check it out. I'm going to find out what is in it. Maybe it won't even be a good game. I don't know. But I'm getting like Wolfenstein vibes. So that's the,
Yeah, no, it doesn't, I mean, I can't say that I'm on board 100% with, Andy Pants's views on everything, but none of us really truly are. But the idea that he wants to make something with some artistic integrity, and, just kind of put this out there for consumption, God, I hate that word, but put it out there in the market space, I guess is a better way to say that, for people to have an opportunity to get involved with, even if it's controversial in its take. It doesn't mean that, given the wide variety of titles that you can find on Steam, it is kind of interesting to see that in recent weeks they've started to bend the knee a little bit, which is a little bit concerning to say the least. But I don't know if I'll be picking this up anytime soon because right now my budget's pretty much for $3 games or groceries.
Yeah.
But it does in many ways. The premise reminds me of what you can find in The Great Rebellion, which I definitely would also recommend, which you've played before on the channel.
I have streamed a little bit of that. I actually want to go back and finish The Great Rebellion and stream that as well. So I also have a number of other demos I want to go through. I have lots planned in terms of game streams, but yes, I'm definitely going to be streaming Chad versus the Gay Nazis on Rumble. I want to see what it's about and if there is any cause for concern. I have no idea what's in this game. I don't even know if it's good. I don't know, but I'm going to find out. So, but my reason for buying it was purely out of principle. I was like, okay, I'm gonna buy it, and I told him I bought it, and I told him I'm gonna play it on my stream. So we'll see. Okay, so Get Yeeted 247 says, "What did I just join?" LMAO. Well, welcome to the stream. It's a weird place to come in the middle, but if you're interested, go to chadversusthegaynazis.com and check out the game if you're interested. So. But anyway, I didn't make the game. I won't take credit. That goes to Andy Pants of Andy Pants Gaming. But with that said, let us get into a little bit of cake. I want to start by looking at this game from Moonbeast Productions. So Moonbeast Productions, their unnamed Diablo-like game that they made, which I'm going to jump ahead. They have some technical issues. This is why somebody messaged me about them, because they were like, oh, maybe you can help them. And I went and joined their Discord server, and I offered my services, but they haven't been very responsive lately. I don't know if it's because they looked me up and they were like, oh shit, this guy has bad ideas, but we'll see. But anyway, let me play some of the gameplay of this game, which doesn't have a title right now, but it might be worth looking into
women.
Oh,
You'll see some cool effects due to the water at some point during this demo, I suspect. Let's keep killing some of these roaches. Now, I just got a blue glyph above my head. I'll talk about those in a second here. Put one away for now. Those guys are pretty tough. Kill these guys here.
Reminds me.
There's a lot of bogeys over there.
A little bit
alerted on me.
Jesus.
These spearmen can be tough early on.
God.
All right.
Name is.
Second glyph.
Give me a second. Because it's a very, very, very well-known title. Why is it
Diablo?
Diablo. Yeah, of course.
Diablo, yeah. It's made. These guys used to work at Blizzard.
Okay.
They worked on the first.
So,
they worked on the first 2 Diablo games.
Okay.
And a lot of people say Diablo 2 is like the best Diablo game.
Yeah. I can't get that. And that's the reason why Diablo kind of escapes my mind, is because the newer ones that became more about microtransactions and things like that, I just kind of was like, nah, nothing there for me anymore. So it's just kind of like filtered out of my mind.
I think these guys also worked on Torchlight, which I have, but I never played it. I do have it though.
Yeah.
release them. Uh-oh, I've got to figure out how to release them. A nice little combo. Combo usually kills a bunch of monsters. Depending on which glyphs I generate, which are random, I can do different effects for that glyph combo. So the witch is all about building glyphs and releasing the combos. At least the witch build I'm playing now. That is a tyrant, and I should usually kill him fast, but I want to watch his meteor. Whoa! Okay, that's how this all.
Well, anyway, so this goes for about an hour and 10 minutes.
Right.
And they show off this game, which again is untitled right now, but the developers are called Moonbeast Productions. And, if you're interested, maybe follow them on YouTube and go into their Discord. And they're constantly, they haven't put out any updates, and obviously they don't have a name yet, but it is essentially a Diablo style game. But the setting, instead of being like, what Diablo was like demons and that kind of demons and angels and stuff, this is more like, fairy tale fantasy, like sort of like old school fantasy. Like those were like kind of like, they were called bogies or bogarts, but they're essentially like goblins. So, I think it looks cool. I want them to succeed. I know that like Diablo 4, there's some controversy around it. And I think there's, is it Path of Exile 2? That's the big competitor to it. So, maybe Path of Exile is the way to go if you like that kind of game. But somebody in the chat, Saltpeter Taffy says, of all the ARPGs, this reminds me most of Grim Dawn. I don't know what Grim Dawn is, but that sounds pretty cool. A Norwegian Black Templar says, speaking of Repo, has anyone else been having heavy lag on multiplayer recently? I haven't played Repo in a couple of days. I'm probably going to try and play some tonight with the wife. I like to play with Lindsay and, Gabriel if he's around. But like John, you're welcome to join when we play Repo again too. I just don't know if you're really busy or whatever. So
I could later this evening. I might actually be free. Thankfully, I don't have any thumbnails or anything like that. All I just have to do is watch that episode of Doctor Who.
Oh, Doctor Who. Right. Yeah. All right, let's but yeah, check that out if you're interested. Moonbeast Productions. Okay. So next we got, this is one that somebody mentioned called The Wayward Realms: Life of an Adventurer. This is another like Oblivion type game. People are saying it's like it could be the next Oblivion or Skyrim or Morrowind or whatever. So let's take a look. This is still in pre-alpha. This is a year old. I don't know if there's anything new since this came out. Did we look at this already? I feel like this looks familiar.
Welcome to the Archipelago, a landmass of over 100 islands, steeped in political intrigue, forgotten magic, and a multitude of adventures to be had. Ours begins on Ijar, a remote island in the northeast. We have come to the town of Melhelm at the behest of Lady Ravensworth, stepmother to the local baron in search of information. Rumors have been circulating of strange occurrences around the tomb of Lord Godsend, a former rival to the baron who met his end at our own hands. We were sent to seek out Niles, an informant for the Order of St. Latra. But it seems the door is locked. There must be another way in.
Like climbing mechanics. That always like concerns me when you do first person, but
right.
There's a way to do it, I guess.
Not the friendly sort. Maybe he just needs a little convincing.
Yeah, I was thinking the exact same thing, Norwegian.
Excellent. We have the information we need.
Right.
Now let's be on our way. We have our goal, but there will be some obstacles in the way. It is up to us how we wish to achieve it. Combat. Stealth.
little hard to see.
Sneaky sneak action,
Like Thief, the old Thief games.
right?
Magic.
I like
Or using our
way
wits
they,
and knowledge.
That's cool.
Right?
Of course. Sometimes that might not be enough. I'm sorry. You say you would rather just spend your time fishing?
So it looks like it's definitely in the vein of a Oblivion style game where you can, it's sort of like, it can be cozy if you want, or it can be just like quests and killing stuff.
Indeed.
So I mean, I don't know. It looks pretty good. This is early. I don't know if there's like a more recent video maybe, but that's a decent impression. Let's look at the next thing. I want to see something here. If you guys have any suggestions,
Feel free to put them
let
in
me
the chat.
know. Yeah, let us know. But I want to show you guys Tainted Grail Fall of Avalon, because this looks pretty good. Okay, so this is another kind of first person RPG. I even though I didn't really play a lot of these, I'm really glad that they seem to be making a comeback. Like, people want this, they're craving this kind of thing. So okay, let's take a look. Avalon's got a darker fantasy to it, but it's also, I think, got a really cool aesthetic.
Right.
The truth about all this would have broken my people.
I write only
Fishing.
letters to
It's got fishing.
Yep.
Game of the year automatically. Like it's this one or the other one.
Me? Of course I'm human.
Oh shit, mining. Still
He was
trees.
the fire
Yep.
that forged order from chaos. The will that carved a path through darkness.
Lock picking.
Ooh. All the things.
I am Arthur Pendragon. I led humans to Avalon shores. I built the great halls of Camelot.
He was the man beneath the crown. He was the voice that doubted. The heart that still beat beneath the weight of legend.
I need to save this realm. This is my vow.
So that's Tainted Grail Fall Avalon. It's like I said, it's sort of like a first person RPG in the same sort of style as Oblivion or Skyrim. People compare it to Skyrim. I don't know if there's much of a difference. The difference is, though, it is an based in Arthurian legend. So if you like King Arthur and the Round Table stuff, which is like, I think it's kind of like a underserved bit of, let's say, it's like an underutilized bit of fiction that we don't really get into, right? So I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
Saltpeter Taffy says, second Arthurian game brought to my attention so far this year. I'm here for it. Yeah, it's kind of neat that that's kind of like a big thing. So
yeah, if only the concepts of chivalry and honor and all that stuff that those stories are based around end up coming back into fashion. That would really
Marin Ribarek says, I hope it has more Morrowind-like elements, though the description it is made by the guys that made Daggerfall and Arena. I never played those games. I'm not really sure. Okay, so somebody else said for me to check something out. Meow Power Yachio. Is this like weeb? This weeb things? It's only weeb things. Hold on a second. Let me just bring it up here. I want to show you guys No Rest for the Wicked. I've been hooked on it lately, and let me see. What? Oh no. I'm trying to find some gameplay of this.
Right.
For some reason, when I look on YouTube, I don't see a lot. Meow Power Yachio. Why am I not seeing it? On YouTube, that is. Topic? I guess I could. No.
Do you have anything on Steam, possibly?
Yeah, I could probably look it up on the Steam store. Let me do that. Steam store there. I'll just search for it in here. Let's see. It says no items, 0 results match your search. Steam, all one word. Yeah, I put it in as all. I just copied it from your chat. Is the exclamation mark not supposed to be there? Is that it? Yeah, I'm not seeing it. Meow Power Yachio. Let me search. Let me just search Brave. Maybe I can find it that way.
Right.
Give me a second. I'm sorry. Meow Space Power Yachio. That's what it is. That's what it is.
Yep.
According to the internet.
Indeed.
No, still nothing.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh, nope. Okay, let me try this again. Let me see. Meowie, Chainsaw Man Wiki, Meow Power, Power and Meow. I'm not seeing it. Byron of Sidious says Epic Legendarium. Thank you. I don't know what that means, but I appreciate the comment regardless. Saltpeter Taffy says The Elder Scrolls 1 and 2, Daggerfall and Arena. Oh, okay. Daggerfall and Arena was made by Bethesda before Morrowind. Okay. I didn't know that. I'm sorry, I'm not up on the latest PC gaming lore. I'm still just a peasant, guys. I'm still just a peasant learning the ways of the PC master race. Okay. So let me see if I can show. I don't know if maybe I've showed this game off before, but No Rest for the Wicked is, I'm kind of hooked, I gotta say. And it does, in fact, have fishing in it. So maybe that's why.
Right. Fishing is the mark of any.
That might be the reason I'm kind of into it, but I want to show you guys a little. You found it on.
You have seen much, Seri.
I found it on Steam. Meow Power.
You have journeyed far. But you know
something about the art style of this game that really got me. It's so like
this island is scattered
different looking. It's just weird but cool.
Right.
These are all in-game graphics, by the way.
Every day I worry we're one step closer to joining them.
Can you hear it?
I'm sharpening it a little bit.
Voice beneath the wind. Calling me.
I know what you are, Sarum. A prayer come too late.
Why are you here? To help? Or to prey on the weak like these vultures?
For too long, the plague has twisted our own bodies against us. Let us return the favor.
If the gate falls, so may Sakra. Go, Serim. You must bend death to your will.
So, No Rest for the Wicked is still in early access, and they're like adding to it slowly. The game's not officially out, but you can buy it. Well, it's in early access, which is
Right.
some people dislike the early access thing because it's like you are, you
Beta
get
testing.
you're essentially beta testing the game. But I supported it because I heard good things about the developers, that they were like, like they seem like decent people.
Right.
And they made a game called Ori, which I think they made there's two Ori games,
I
which I
believe
never
so,
played, but they're supposedly pretty solid. And so I said, okay, I'll just go ahead and pick it up. And I think it was on sale when I got it on Steam. And I gotta say, I'm kind of hooked. Like I play it a little bit every morning, and it's definitely a game that you're not supposed to rush, because there's a lot to do. And maybe this is what some people don't like about it, because there's like a town and you can like build up the town, you help them rebuild. There's quests to go on, there's loot to manage, there's a house you can buy, there's fishing, there's like cutting down trees, there's crafting, it's basically really ambitious in terms of
Right.
everything it's got in it. But and they're going to be adding co-op to it. This is what I'm saying, I'm hearing anyway. And I think that could be very cool. But again, we're talking about like a pretty big time sink. So I've been playing it. I have a build now that is more like an agility focused build with like these Wolverine claws. I don't have any magic or anything. But yeah, it's pretty impressive. And I think it might even be trying to do too many things, but it's not bad. I would say check it out. So if you're curious, check out No Rest for the Wicked. It's available for early access right now. So, all right, here's Meow Power Yachio. I think the mistake was maybe the Y. I don't know, but it was a misspelling somewhere. But let's take a look. I'm gonna turn on the volume.
Whoa. That is volume.
was lowering because it's really loud.
Yeah, totally understandable. Especially if you have headphones on.
Yeah. Okay.
Very
Well,
Japanese.
That's it's definitely a Japanese game. But thanks for shouting it out. Let me see if somebody has another thing that they want to check out. We got a little bit of time. I'm gonna try and wrap it up a little early.
Oh yeah, totally
if I
understandable.
can, but
You got a pressing appointment after this. So.
yeah.
And
Pillars
I
of
know
Eternity
that,
2.
and I know that
What?
I know Ryan's got a busy day ahead as well, aside from just his conversation with you. He's got I think he's got to do like a 3-4 hour long game stream for Chrono Trigger over on his Rumble channel later on today.
Oh, cool.
Yep.
What's he gonna be playing? Chrono Trigger still?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. This is this is every late 80s, early 90s Japanese gaming trope rolled into one. Yeah, that happened. Yeah. Well, speaking of which, there was like a really cool sort of remake of Pocky and Rocky. Let me see.
In some ways, based on what
Reshrined.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Peter
go ahead.
Caffey saying, I got a heavy Ultra Games Ninja Turtle vibes from it.
For sure. Yeah, this is the Pocky and Rocky Reshrine. It's not new, but I did have an interest in this because I had Pocky and Rocky for the Super NES back in the day. I played the shit out of that game. Like I don't know why I got hooked into it. Like the other one I really enjoyed was Legend of the Mystical Ninja, which is just like it's basically just called Goemon in Japan. But because we didn't know who Goemon was in the States, they had to give it a crazy name in the hopes that it would sell copies. But Legend of the Mystical Ninja was like a Konami made game, which at the time Konami was like one of those companies that could do no wrong. So they probably just ported everything that Konami made, especially on the Super NES. But anyway, another game. I don't think Konami made it, but it was Pocky and Rocky had a similar like appealing kind of Japanese art style.
Right.
But I think this is a fun game. Yes, the music too. Essentially a shoot 'em up, handheld shooter.
Right.
You're a little shrine maiden. You're like a little shrine maiden that destroys your enemies. And there's a lot of spirits that you fight. You team up with this Tanuki. Oh, they added new characters too. The original game, I think, was just Pocky and Rocky.
Right.
Box? I don't know. Anyway, so I'm not gonna play the whole thing, but that's Pocky and Rocky. That's what it reminded me of, that meow power thing. So okay, let me see. Does anybody have any other quick suggestions before I end it? I think somebody in the chat mentioned, no, I think I looked it up already.
Yeah.
Grim Dawn. Somebody said Grim Dawn. I want to see what that is. Did we look at that? We didn't look at that. Did we look
Not
at that?
yet.
I
No,
don't
no, no.
remember.
That got mentioned when we were looking.
Oh, it was Wayward Realms I was thinking about. Okay, Grim Dawn. I just want to know what this is.
Yep.
So let's. Oh. It's kind of it's from a while back, so it's kind of an old game, but it's one I never heard of. So maybe it's just new. Maybe it's just new to me. I mean, it is just new to me. So okay, Grim Dawn. This is a video called "Why Play Grim Dawn" in 90 seconds. So it's short, and then we'll wrap it up.
The action is gory and addictive. The dark atmosphere and the beautiful soundtrack will keep you hooked for hours. In Grim Dawn, you will travel through grass, sand, rock, and snow as you reinforce the last groups of human survivors who had lost all hope. You will fight your way through mountains, battlefields, and city ruins as you explore a massive, handmade world with an extremely detailed main storyline that will entertain you for hours on end. And if you dare seek a harder challenge, just step away from the main path and look for the secret side dungeons with rich rewards and deadly optional fights. Dare to enter the one-way roguelike dungeons where death lurks at every corner, where town portals are disabled, and the only way out is through. Test your build crafting skills by engaging the celestial bosses that will demolish your character in 2 swings. Go back to farming, level up, craft, and upgrade your gear, and maybe next time you'll stand a chance. By now, you've reached the endgame. It's time to enter the crucible arenas and the randomized maps of the Shattered Realm, where you will fight wave after wave of increasingly difficult monsters until you perish, or unlock the greatest of treasures.
Cool.
Okay.
I can see the comparison now,
Yeah, definitely. This guy sold Grim Dawn way better than I could have, LOL.
Right.
All right, well that's gonna wrap it up for us on the show. So but thanks for all of the suggestions and turning me on to some new things that I didn't know about. So appreciate that. And so let's go ahead and wrap it up. Tell us what do you got going on?
Well, as always, I will be on Toasty's channel throughout the week. We do Sundays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. So I will be over there with her tomorrow. But prior to that, of course, the next thing I got coming up is Who TF Cares, as I was mentioning earlier in the show on Will of the Fans channel. And of course, you can also see me with him on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We start those broadcasts at 9 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. Pacific. And then I'm here with you on Saturdays. And also we are doing Rumble exclusives now on Toasty's channel on Friday because we do the Old White Road with Ryan Roger Thay on Reality Based. And so we've decided that we want to really put our effort behind this reality-based Rumble revolution. And so we do a show now that we're affectionately calling Fuck YouTube Fridays over on Toasty's channel. And other than that, of course, thanks everybody for joining us, especially everybody who is watching in on Rumble. I do feel that where we're going in the future, we will definitely need to rely on this platform far more than CensorTube, because it is clearly corrupted, if not, just simply compromised. But with that said, though, thanks again. Always a great conversation here with you on the weekends. And everyone else, safe travels ahead. Have a wonderful weekend going forward. Be awesome as always.
All right, and I'll be streaming this week. It's Goon in June. I'll see what I can find that will be a good fit. But I'm also going to be playing exclusively on Rumble, Chad versus the Gay Zombies. So be on the lookout. Or is it the gay Nazis, which are basically zombie Nazis? Probably. Maybe they'll be both. Chad versus the Gay Nazis over on Rumble. Hopefully, I will see you guys there. But with all that said, if you guys like this video, please hit like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Hit the bell for notifications. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you guys think about what we discussed on the show today. And please, please, please share this video because sharing is caring. Thank you guys so much for coming on today's episode of The Week in Culture. And we'll talk to you guys in the next one. Long live Vivian.
With the glass ceiling broken, all the oppressed groups shall prosper, especially the most oppressed group of all, gamers.
I want people in the industry to be a little bit louder about people being mean to other people. And maybe say it's not a good thing.
Yeah.
Maybe say we don't want you around if you're going to be a cunt.
Yeah.
And hateful. And that the games industry is diverse naturally. Not because anyone's making them be diverse. Because the world is diverse, you stupid motherfucker. And if you have a problem with that, come fight me. Physically. Bitch.
Has anyone taken you up on that yet?
No, because they're all pussies.
Yep.
Down here, salt is a way of life.
Obviously, the environment down here is all salt. The ceiling's salt, the floor is salt, the walls are salt, and to an extent, the air is salt. And you breathe that in, and you can constantly taste the salt.